Says recording will start soon.
All right. Soon is
So,
good.
Uno momento. Okay, it is being recorded. All right. So, yeah, my name is Wade. I write for Show Snob and various other sites. You know, live in the Midwest, basically in the middle of nowhere, the UP of Michigan. You might have never even heard of the place. But anyway, I know a little bit about who you are. I did some research and I've got some questions.
Sure.
So
Thank you, man.
anytime you're ready.
Yeah, I'm at your service. Whatever you need.
All right. So can you elaborate on your creative process for scoring the Griselda soundtrack, particularly your decision to incorporate the harpsichord, choir, and classical guitar, and how these elements contribute to the narrative?
Well, first of all, thanks for taking the time to talk to me at all, man.
Oh, sure.
These are really cool things, and I would, before I got to do the interviews, I would always listen to all of them and read them. And so for me, this is a nice, privileged experience. So I'm grateful. As far as writing for Griselda, it was really the fact that the director was a really creative person. His name is Andy Baez, and we ended up speaking for like a month and a half before I wrote anything. And we just talked a lot. We had a lot of conversations and trying to figure out what it was going to be like, because the story takes place in Miami, in Colombia, but it takes place in Miami in the 70s and 80s. And I'm older, so I saw Scarface, when it, came out. And there's the fantastic film, Al Pacino, and playing the role of Tony Montana. And so that was a score written by Giorgio Moroder, and it was really synth-heavy score, really cool. But the music, so he made a playlist and he sent it to me like a Spotify link, and I was listening to all that, and it was kind of synthy music. And I go, okay, I understand. We're going to try to capture that. But then we kept talking, and then he's, visually capturing the spirit of it, sonically capturing the spirit of it, and the songs that are usually used, which I never have anything to do with as a composer. I do one side, and the source music is done by a music supervisor, in this case Liza Richardson, who's really great. And where you have the found songs and the mood setting thing when you walk into a club, what's playing, you know what I mean? Donna Summer, and that kind of stuff, and Blondie or whatever. And so it's like that was taken care of on that side. So we started talking about what about a different approach, and he made a playlist of classical music and really dramatic classical music. And I started thinking, what if we do opera, man? Just like over the top, like just beyond, like just massive. And so that was a conversation starter. And after the playlist was sent, and then he sent me the opening scene of the show. And he goes, I don't know if it needs music. It's just, I don't think it needs music, but you get the sense of what's happening. And so what our character's going through. And then I started watching it. And then and then there's a moment she stops at the stairs, and you see on her hand, like the camera gets close up, and you see blood on the hand. And then I usually do write by like singing into my phone, like a fan, like I'm looking at the picture and I start going, like literally like that, and I started like whatever, reacting to the picture, like dun dun, whatever a melody comes up, and then I have it in my phone, and then I put it in what's called the DAW, digital audio workstation, and I started kind of flesh it out and make real notes instead of my stupid voice. And but that happened, and I kind of liked it, and I was like, dude, this feels like opera, like an overture to an opera. Like you're going to see a larger than life story, right? So I started doing that, and it has choir in it, and then harpsichord in it, and I sent it to him, and I was like, I don't know, dude, he's probably gonna hate it. He goes, Carlos, I love it. I think it's gonna be great. And I was like, oh my God! And from there on, we just took off. And then to specifically answer the question about the harpsichord, it was the thing is that throughout the story, she gives speeches like to her team, to the people that are working for her, to kind of psych them up and empower them, and like it's like a real leader kind of thing, And what I found is, like in opera in the classical era, there used to be this thing called the continuo, which is like the harpsichord would support when people are reciting, and the recitative is what it's called. But like whenever they're singing exposition, They're like, you know, the uncle's coming to the town. Now what are we gonna do? No, when it's not the songs themselves, but it's like the setup. There's always harpsichord playing a chord. The uncle's coming to town. What are we gonna do? You know. So I started thinking, what if we have like harpsichord accompanying her speeches? Like it's like a recitative, like it's like totally operatic, and her voice is the melody instead of the melody. You know what I mean? Her voice is the melody, and that's sort of like. And I sent the first speech that she had done. I started doing this thing. And then the colors started to happen. It was like opera. It was like orchestral, classical orchestra with the harpsichord featured, and choir. And choir, dude, we have like, you know how when you hear low notes in films, you always know like something scary is happening, like Jaws, like don't, right? Low notes are trope. It's a trope, right? And it's a device you use to make you feel like, well, choir is a trope. Just the sound of choir means epic. Like in your mind, you hear choir, you're like, oh, large, and her story was larger than life. So all those elements come in by planning, but also a lot of them by just taking a risk, and we got lucky, man. So,
and if you have a sound like a child's musical box, that means something demented is probably going to happen.
Of course, if it's at 2 o'clock in the morning, yes, and the scene is dark, it ain't good. It ain't good to hear that.
It's a bad sign.
Yeah.
So, the Griselda series is set in the 70s in Miami, as you said. And so how did you approach infusing the cultural elements into the score to enhance the storytelling, especially considering the series setting and the theme?
Yeah. I grew up in Central America. My mom's from Guatemala. My dad's from Cuba. And my dad moved a lot. I was born in Washington, D.C., moved to Miami when I'm 3. Then my dad gets a job opportunity in Guatemala. We moved to Guatemala, then to Costa Rica when I'm 9, and to Panama when I'm 11. Just moved a lot. So I had a lot of Spanish upbringing, cultural upbringing, but I was like into rock and roll, man. So I was like, I rejected all that music. I was like, whatever, this is the old folks people music, kind of thing. But it was in my 20s when I started studying music seriously that I started paying attention to Latin American music and going, holy shit, this is really good stuff. Like, it's really interesting. And why do I keep clapping on the wrong beat for Cuban music, And it's like, oh, I get it. And I started learning things that made me more curious about it. And so before I did the film stuff, I was doing a lot of classical music. I was writing chamber music for guitar, music for orchestra. And the writing I was doing was really like kind of Latin American performing arts stuff, like stuff like that we performed on stage, but it was based on Latin American rhythms. So that kind of thing was something that I liked the idea of, and I felt very comfortable doing. And it happened to land into this question that you're asking, because it really is about orchestral music, but not just playing the, like European orchestra, but it's like an orchestra with a Latin American kind of vibe. The rhythms are on the guitar, whatever, are Latin American for sure.
So let's see. How closely did you work with the director to align the musical elements with the vision he had for the series? And were there any specific challenges or breakthrough moments that you would like to mention?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, Andy Bice was like a dream to work with, because he really just gave me room. He wasn't like micromanaging anything. He was just, once he loved what I sent him at the beginning, and this never happens. It's usually like revision. It's a job of revision, that job we do. It's always like kind of, okay, we like it, but we're not sure about the middle. Okay, let me work on the middle, send it back. This isn't working at all. Okay, let me see if I have another approach. No matter what I'm thinking about it, it's what they want to hear and feel, right? That's my job. And so this was just a unicorn of an experience, because he was very much, once he loved it at the beginning, out of the way. One of the great experiences that I had was doing there's a scene that happens at the Dadeland Mall. It's like the Dadeland Mall shootout. That's a thing that happens in like episode 3 or 4. I think it's 3. And I don't remember, man. But the thing is, like, it's a heist. They got to plan this thing out, and they're gonna, Griselda's doing a hit on a couple people that she has to do a hit on. And the feeling I had when I saw the scene already as it was sent to me was very much of a movie called The Usual Suspects. I don't know. It's a 90s film that is really, really good.
I think
Scored by John Ottman. Yeah, it's a really good. It's a fantastic film. And there was a feeling I had when I was watching that movie. There's a moment when they're doing a setup and a heist. They have to kind of catch somebody that's in an elevator ride. And the way I felt watching that movie, I remember going, "Oh my God, this is so freaking cool." And when I saw this scene, I felt the same way. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is so cool." I got to capture that feeling, like musically, and I'm very happy on how it turned out, because it's just like, dude, it's like you're like in on what's going to happen until it happens, and the funner thing is that the music stops when the actual thing starts to go down. And so it's, kind of Lord of the Ringsy. I don't know if you saw those movies, but
oh yeah, I saw those. Even I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings person.
yeah,
Me and my two brothers saw them in the area,
yeah.
each and every one of them. So
And that's the thing. There's like always music's building until the battle, and then the battle happens. There's no music, and it's so raw. The sound of the clink of the armor and the spears and whatever, that it feels you're even more immersed. But had the music not been there, you wouldn't be as. So that's sort of like that scene I'm really happy about. I just love to get to do that. That's a moment I was like, holy crap, I get to do this. That was the moment, I think, for me as a fan.
I watched two documentaries on Griselda.
Yeah.
They were called the Cocaine
Okay, Cowboys. Yeah.
And one of the things that stuck with me is that there's this, I don't remember the guy's name, but he hated her so much that he stayed in the mall like all day long himself, not like a henchman, but he wanted to like take her out. So he stayed in that mall that she frequented.
Oh wow, yeah, no,
that kind of stuck with me. It's an interesting character.
It is a really and the thing about the story, it's like, look, man, I don't think it's trying to make. It's maybe if anything, is trying to explain, but definitely not excuse her. You know what I mean? And she's like somebody that you're not supposed to root for, but those are the kind of stories I like, because you find yourself kind of being on her side throughout, but you shouldn't be. Do you know what I mean? You have every reason not to.
Even like with somebody like Freddy Krueger, like even though he's bad, like he's one of the worst.
You can't wait.
If you're a fan of the movies, you're kind of a fan of Freddy. You know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing if you're
absolutely, dude. I mean, that's why that's what makes it fun, because that's what makes it entertaining, I guess. And at least it was fun for me to work on, because this lady Sofia Vergara really nailed the job. I mean, she did really well, and she's perceived as a comedian, and funny lady, and she is, but she nailed this.
There's a duality to the character too, I'm sure.
Yep.
So another thing I have to ask about is the for Netflix's The Queen's Gambit, you got a Grammy and 2 Emmys for that, which is pretty impressive. I mean, how do you approach scoring these different genres and themes, and what unique challenges did Griselda present compared to your previous work?
Oh man, I mean, it's always different. I think that's the fun is about this, is that you get to work in these different genres. It goes from that. I'd love to do horror. Horror is like, something like you were mentioning earlier. I love that stuff too, growing up. And I think it's just, it has to always fit the story, and that's sort of like Queen's Gambit was the opposite of Griselda, because I had months of trials that were not working, and where the director would call me and say, "You're scoring the wrong movie," which is a really good note to get, actually, because I'm thinking I'm doing something musically that's going to work for a character from the point of view I'm seeing it. Like one particular scene was like a chess sequence I did, and the first chess sequence that I had to score. And I kept thinking, well, she was young in that scene. She's like a girl in an orphanage playing this old guy. And I was like, well, what if I make her the light, in a very dark environment, in a very dark setting that she has? And I scored that, and I was very happy with it. I sent it him. He's like, this isn't what it's about, and I started thinking, what am I going to do? Because it was months of not.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Tell me if you can hear me
Okay,
now.
I can hear you now.
1 second. I think
All right.
1 second. Okay, I'm back, and let me do one more settings thing. Sorry, it just sort of switched.
Okay.
Let me get the microphone to be the right microphone. Okay, are you there? Are you there?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay, so, man, I think the microphone got bored, and it's like, dude, shut up. So it just on me. But
Yeah.
I'll give it short. The thing is, like, I ended up thinking of the story as a fairy tale, and a dark fairy tale is what saved me, because I was trying to do all this stuff, but all I realized is that she's a woman who's a victim of the choices that were made for her by the time she's 9 years old. So, and I started to imagine like the Disney movies, like when they Once Upon a Time and the book would zoom in and then it would open up, you know, and then the camera would push in, but a dark story. And that's what made the cues that I started writing for the Queen's Gambit work. But it took months. And so every story is a challenge. Every story is different, and how you get to what they approve is a different journey every time. Sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's not, but it's always worth it. And I grow. You know, I'm always growing because I have to do research on what I'm writing about, what the characters are, what was the kind of music that they listened to, what was the kind of music that existed at the time, where is it taking place, like all the things we were talking about before. And so you're always learning, which is the goal of life, I think. You know, you just keep filling that brain up and sharing it, and you die.
So another thing, you're also you've also been involved in education. So how has that impacted your compositions at all?
Well, it does because first of all, I teach at the Frost School of Music. I'm the chairperson for the film scoring department, and so I teach what I do and directly. And what I like about it is I'm sharing all my mistakes with the students, and so I tell them what not to do. But you know, when you're 20, you don't care. Saying you're going to do it anyway because nobody wants to be told what to do. But I tell them at least the mistakes I'm making so they don't make them. And the idea is for students to become better than me. The idea is for me to share all I know so they can grab all I know and then improve upon it. And then we get better music to be consumed by the audience. And so it's a giving thing. And I've been involved in academia since the 90s. I was a teaching assistant at USC, and then I was teaching at the Pasadena Conservatory and at USC. And then I moved to Miami in 2010. And I've been at University of Miami since then. I've been like 14 years almost. Holy crap. Jesus.
Yeah, that's one of the ironies about teaching, is that if you're doing your job well, you become irrelevant. You know what I mean? Because your students have already learned everything and they don't need you anymore.
That's the goal. The goal is to be I'll turn into you remember, I don't know if you remember a movie, what is it called? The Dark Crystal, where these creatures would look at the crystal and it would suck their life out.
I really don't remember anything.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. But there's like this crystal that sucks your life and drains your life force. That's what students are supposed to do with me, you know? So
yeah. So well, I guess I'll wrap things up here because we've been talking for a while already. Time flies. But what future projects are you working on?
Well, right now,
about.
Well, basically, I'm sort of superstitious because I don't like to talk about things, and not because I don't want to say I'm not allowed to say. That's stupid. I don't believe in that crap. But I do believe if I talk about something and then it doesn't work out, then it's kind of stupid to talk about it. But I'm working on something right now with Scott, and then also something else with Hacks. We're doing season 3 now. We're kind of finishing that up, and so I'm working with David Stahl, who's my co-composer on that. He's been with me since Hacks season 2.
What's that name called? STHL?
David Stahl, STAL.
Oh, ST. Okay.
AL, and then David, first name. And then we're working on Hacks season 3 now. And we're in the throes of it right now. So we're just sort of finishing. We're halfway through. We've done 4 out of the 9 or 8 or 9 episodes I think the season has. Crap, I think it may have 10, but I think it's 9. But it's a different approach, and that's a comedy, man. So it's totally different style of music from the dramatic stuff of Griselda or Monsieur Spade or Lessons in Chemistry, which is in the 50s, and this is a comedy that's a contemporary comedy with a you know, very unique characters, and the job of music is different than it is in a drama. So,
Sure.
so for me, it's always educational, man. I'm always learning about it and making mistakes along the way. Of course, you know, you're like, oh, they didn't like that. Why didn't they like that? Oh, okay, because you don't know what you're talking about in this sequence. Oh, okay, I get it. You know, you learn. You're always
Yeah.
learning. So,
Well, I guess that should probably be enough questions for the article, I guess.
thanks,
I guess,
man.
is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, man, I like your shirt.
Oh yeah. Do you know who this guy is?
I always say Darwin. I don't
Nope,
know.
it's
I know Prince.
Kropotkin.
Who is
He
it?
was a he was born a prince in Russia, but he renounced his position and became a revolutionary anarchist.
Oh
Oh,
wow, no, dude, that's a
that-
great, great T-shirt.
that's
Now
a
it
great
makes
joke
sense.
too, because it's
Yeah,
like a
hell yeah.
joke on Prince, the
Yes, but
musician.
he was a prince. No, that's why, formerly known as. I
Yeah.
had all that down. And I was like, "What's Darwin doing?" Because I kept thinking, you know, as I see that it looks like a picture of Darwin to me, but
Oh
obviously it's not.
no,
You know,
it's tough because the shirt is actually very funny,
what's the
but
guy's name?
practically nobody knows about it. I mean,
Yeah,
at
what's his
least
name?
that you're going to meet in the average day. Kropotkin.
Kropotkin, Potkin.
Yeah, Kropotkin.
Oh, KR. Oh, I see. KROP. Hold on. Oh, Kropotkin. I got it. Yeah, there he is. I got
Fascinating
it. I'm
character.
looking at his. I'll do some research now. This is really
And
cool, man. Yeah, that's a
who
deep
else
cut.
in history started off a prince and then was like, "Nah, I'm going to become a revolutionary anarchist"? And I
Oh, the
can't think of
closest
anybody
thing
like
would
that.
would be Buddha, you know. But
Oh
he
yeah,
instead of the Buddha that was a person. God, his name. But he became a bodhisattva. He renounced his princely thing and became. But he went to a cave and meditated, you know. And
yeah.
so, but he renounced the thing. But this guy, I'm gonna read. I'm on my
Oh,
when
he
we hang
also
up.
escaped from prison once.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna read this dude's life. This is really exciting. Well,
Oh,
thank
it
you.
is interesting. There should be a movie about him, but I don't
Yeah.
think Hollywood would ever go for it.
I'll talk to my people. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know anybody like that, dude.
Well,
I
if you
have no
can,
power. No, it's funny because like that's what people think. Oh, you guys got it. We don't. You know, you're working for people. It's always like that. It's so
yeah,
weird. There's
yeah.
no like. It's not like you hang out at this club. No, bro. I'm in Miami anyway. So like I'm never in the production process, but in what's called post production. So it's always after. You know, and everybody's gone home except the director, and they're asking, "Where's the music?" So.
Well, right.
That's
At that, I'll let you go, and you have a wonderful day and all that stuff. And
Have
nice
a good one,
talking.
man. Same
Yep.
to you, bro. Take care.
Yep.
Bye.